I was reborn at the moment the campus heartthrob hit rock bottom. This time, I wouldn't throw money to make him my boyfriend. Instead, I would step aside and let him be with his childhood sweetheart. In my previous life, I had fallen hopelessly for Dylan, the school's golden boy, and pursued him with reckless abandon. When I learned that his childhood friend from the orphanage was gravely ill and in desperate need of expensive medical treatment, I ignored his icy demeanor and paid the bills on his behalf on the condition that he become my boyfriend. On graduation night, drunk and overwhelmed, I unexpectedly became pregnant with his child, forcing him into marriage. But on the day of the wedding, his childhood friend, heartbroken, ran out of the hospital and died in a car accident. In her final moments, she had called him 39 times for help, but Dylan, busy with our wedding, never answered. Outwardly calm, he slid the ring onto my finger, promising to cherish me for life. Yet, on the day I went into labor, he stopped the ambulance, dragged me to the very place where his childhood friend had died, and forced me to kneel and confess. I clutched my swollen belly, writhing in pain, begging, "Me mud out a low sigh. Husband. It hurts so much I'm about to give birth. Please, having fulfilled my assertion, take me to the hospital first." Dylan, eyes bloodshot, screamed, "If you hadn't meddled with your pity, and then crawled into my bed while I was drunk, why would I have married you? Why would I have missed Chloe's calls? You deserve this." Then, when he let the roaring truck crush me, and the child inside me into a bloody mess. When I opened my eyes this time, I had returned to the day Dylan anxiously struggled to pay for his sister's medical bills. "Stella, stop acting like a spoiled rich girl." Dylan's face burned with humiliation. His eyes were red as he slapped the bank card I handed him onto the floor. "Even if I died, Dylan, would never take your filthy money." The card skidded across the floor with a shrill scrape, echoing the sound of my bones being crushed by a truck in my last life. He too, had clearly been reborn. The look in his eyes no longer held the awe of our first encounter, it was pure, unrelenting hatred and disgust. "Stella, so what if you have a few lousy bucks? I'll tell you now, even if you threw 100 million in front of me, I wouldn't look at you, let alone become your dog." He thought I would, as before, try to coerce him with money or bind him with love. Before I could respond, a weak cough came from the hospital room. Chloe, in her patient gown, leaned pale and trembling against the door, her eyes red-rimmed. "Dylan, don't be like this. Apologize to Stella. It's my fault. If it weren't for my illness, you wouldn't have to suffer like this." Tears fell from her cheeks as she spoke, evoking a pang of sympathy in me. Dylan immediately turned, pulled her into his arms, and his voice softened several degrees. "Chloe, patting so my obsession. This isn't your concern. Don't overthink it. I'll handle the money." The two of them enacted a scene of deep affection, yet I felt nothing but a flicker of amusement. In my past life, I had been drawn to his inflexible pride, mistaking his cold aloofness for purity and uniqueness compared to the flashy girls around him. Now, it was clear he was nothing more than a fool blinded by a cheap green tea. I bent down, picked up the bank card, and put it back in my bag. My tone was calm. This money was collected from the whole class. 3,780 TUN in total. I was just the representative delivering it. Since you, Dylan, have pride, I'll take it back. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving not a trace of attachment. Dylan stared, stunned. He clearly hadn't expected that this girl who had loved him to the bone would refuse the money without begging him, and simply walk away. This lifetime, I would never be foolish again. I only wanted to stay far away from both of them. A month from now, I would fly to England and start my new life. In my previous life, for Dylan, I had turned down offers from the world's top universities, dimmed my own brilliance, and became nothing more than a ladder for his ascent. I had used the Stella family's resources to pave his way from a penniless boy to a rising business star. Yet, when the Stella family was drained and on the brink of bankruptcy, he snatched it up at a bargain. My father suffered a stroke from the shock, and Dylan simply said it was karma for my so-called greedy interference. This time, I would never intersect with him again. At home, I had the butler gather all of Dylan's belongings from the villa. They were worthless items: draft papers, pens, buttons, and notebooks filled with my own past confessions of love. I threw them all into the trash. Even the cheap green glass bracelet on my wrist, I planned to return it. It had originally been for his childhood friend, but she had dismissed it as cheap, so he had casually given it to me. I had treasured it for 2.5 years. Looking back, I had been blind. Because he had been first to save me from drowning, I had awakened to an irresistible love for him. Yet, a man unwilling to share even a sliver of his heart was not worthy of my burning affection. Dylan had clearly been reborn with his memories intact. Within a week, I heard he had, through some unnoticed short-term investments, miraculously raised 500,000 yuan. He had dramatically paid off all of Chloe's medical bills. And Chloe had finally agreed to be with him. The campus forums overflowed with posts like, "The school heartthrob creates miracles for love," and "The poor genius who turns the tide." Photos of Dylan embracing Chloe at the hospital payment desk circulated everywhere. Chloe's smile was radiant, brimming with happiness. Dylan's eyes, filled with adoration. They had become the envy of the entire school. Chloe's friends mocked me mercilessly, ridiculing my foolish attempts to break them apart. I didn't care in the slightest. Before leaving for abroad, I decided to visit my grandmother in the hospital. She was in good spirits, clutching my hand and chattering continuously. "Stella, my child, why suddenly decide to study abroad? And Dylan, can you really bear to leave him? You were so determined before, telling me you'd marry no one but him." A whinge of bitterness rose in my chest. In my past life, I had given so much for him, but had never warmed his heart. This time, I would never love him. I smiled. "Grandma, I haven't liked him for a long time. I have my own life planned." She stroked my head with a smile. "I always thought that boy lacked responsibility and had a scheming heart. My Stella is so good, he just wasn't lucky enough." After she fell asleep, I stepped out of the ward, ready to leave. At the corner of the corridor, I ran straight into someone. It was Dylan. At the sight of me, his face darkened instantly, eyes brimming with contempt and mockery. "Stella, you really can't let it go, can you? What's wrong? Feeling jealous because I paid Chloe's hospital bill? You came all the way here just to do something to her, didn't you?" I frowned. "I came to visit my grandmother." "Huh. That's a pathetic excuse." Dylan sneered. "Don't think I don't know what's going on in your head. You're jealous that Chloe has my love, aren't you? Stella, let me tell you something: someone like you, who only knows how to throw money at people, doesn't deserve anyone's genuine affection." Every word stabbed like a knife. At that moment, Chloe stepped softly out of the ward, her voice delicate as she tapped lightly on Dylan's sleeve. "Dylan, Lanoan, stop." Maybe Stella really did come to visit her family. Her tone was gentle, but her eyes gleamed with triumph. "Stella," she said sweetly, "I know you like Dylan, but love isn't something you can force. Dylan and I grew up together. What we have now isn't something money can buy. Please, stop trying to make me leave him." Her words were like oil on fire. Dylan's expression pinned even further. He shoved me hard. "Get lost. Don't let me see you again." I stumbled backward, crashing into the wall. The glass bracelet on my wrist shattered on impact. The sharp fragments cut into my palm, and blood instantly welled up. "Stella." I didn't mean. Dylan's pupils contracted sharply. He instinctively reached out to help me. But just then, Chloe swayed and collapsed into his arms. "Dylan, I feel so dizzy." He immediately withdrew his hand and gathered her up in panic. "Chloe, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Watching him cradle her anxiously, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. The day I was run over by that truck, he had stood there filled with hatred, not taking a single step toward me. Now, Chloe pretends to faint, and he nearly loses his mind. I stood up, ignoring the broken bracelet on the floor, and walked to the nurse's station to bandage my wound. It took a few days for the cut to scab over before I returned to school, only to say goodbye to my teachers and classmates. and handle the paperwork for studying abroad. But the moment I stepped into the classroom, I froze. My desk was piled high with things like a miniature mountain, limited edition sneakers, the newest game console, a rare comic I'd spent days searching for, and a crookedly knitted scarf, the one I'd stayed up countless nights to finish, perking my fingers over and over again. These were all gifts I'd given Dylan over the past 2 years, each carrying a piece of my heart. Now, he dumped them all on my desk like trash. Dylan stood nearby, arms crossed, a mocking smile on his lips. "Stella, I'm with Chloe now. Take your things back. Don't bother me anymore." Chloe gets jealous. His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for everyone in class to hear. Whispers spread instantly. Eyes filled with sympathy, disdain, and amusement turned toward me. Finally, having fustelled my anxiety, the show's starting. Stella spent a fortune chasing the school heartthrob, and now he's returning everything. What a humiliation. Serves her right. She tried to come between him and Chloe even after he said he didn't like her. Thought money could buy love? Exactly. Always throwing her wealth around. Now she knows even money can't win a man's heart. I lifted my gaze to the ones gossiping. They were the same people I'd shared my father's imported chocolates with. The ones I'd lent money to without a second thought when they were in need. But in their eyes, my kindness had turned into arrogance. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. Before I could say anything, Noah suddenly grabbed Dylan by the collar. His expression fierce. "Who the hell do you think you are? Talking to Stella like that? She's prettier than your little green tea. Smarter to always in the top 10 of the grade and her family's way out of your league. Your precious Chloe only knows how to play dirty. My Stella's bold and straightforward. I love that about her. You don't deserve her. Don't flatter yourself thinking she came here to beg you. She's just here because she's about to." "Noah. Stop." I cut him off. This was between me and Dylan. I didn't want anyone else dragged into it. I used to be loud and confident. But Dylan had said he disliked girls who were too strong-willed. So I'd forced myself to change to be softer, more obedient, until I lost sight of who I really was. Now, with a new life waiting ahead, I didn't want any more trouble. When I touched Noah's arm, he quieted, glaring once more at Dylan before letting go. I turned to Dylan. "You've returned everything. We're even. From now on, we're strangers." His face darkened, and after a long pause, he scoffed. "You'd better mean that. Don't come crawling back later, it's disgusting." I couldn't even be bothered to reply. Under everyone's gaze, I walked to the back of the classroom, grabbed a large black garbage bag, and began throwing everything from my desk into it, every carefully chosen, lovingly given gift. Finally, I pulled out a stack of thick envelopes from the bottom drawer, 99 letters. Every one written for him but never sent. Each word was soaked in the foolish, wholehearted love of a girl who thought she could be enough. I tossed them into the garbage bag too. Dylan's face turned ashen. He hadn't expected me to be so resolute. The old me would have cried and begged him to take them. Maybe even gone out to buy him something newer, better, until he deigned to accept them. But this time, I carried the heavy garbage bag to the end of the hallway, took out a lighter, and with a click, set the letters ablaze. Blue flames licked the yellowed paper, consuming every last trace of my Navi. Humiliating love. Dylan's expression dark and further. He glared at the fire, furious, then turned and stormed off. "Fine, Stella. You better not regret this." "Regret?" I almost laughed. And no, I was relieved. Finally, cadento sai. I'd drawn a clear line between myself and the trash. When the crowd dispersed, a faintly mint-scented jacket was draped over my shoulders. Noah stood beside me, grinning at the ashes on the ground, his smile impossible to hide. "That's my girl, Stella. For that piece of trash. How long are you planning to stay miserable?" "Since you were 8. I've been the one watching your back. When did it become someone else's turn to make you suffer? This pretty boy's useless. From now on, let me be the one who likes you. I like you best when you're loud, reckless, and impossible to handle. It turns me on." I was stunned. I never expected such a sincere confession to come from Noah, the school's resident delinquent, who never took anyone seriously. When I didn't respond, he tilted his chin. His voice tinged with arrogant defiance. You don't like me because you're blind. But since I heard you're going abroad, I've already submitted my application too. I'm that good. And I've got all the time in the world to make you fall for me. I couldn't help but laugh, my eyes curving. All right. We walked side by side out of the school gates. Though I could still feel someone's gaze burning into my back. On the day I was leaving the country, my parents packed my luggage for me, reminding me to stay safe. They stood at the doorway, watching as I got into the car. Just as the car was about to exit the villa gates, a figure suddenly dashed out, blocking the road. It was Dylan. He looked worn out. Dark circles under his eyes. Though the arrogance that had once defined him hadn't faded a bit. I rolled down the window and looked at him coolly. What do you want? He was panting, his voice hoarse. Chloe. Her condition just got worse. The doctor said she's gone into acute kidney failure. She needs a transplant immediately. I raised a brow and said nothing, waiting for what I knew would come next. Sure enough. He drew a deep breath, his tone one of condescending charity. Stella. I know you still love me. If you're willing to donate a kidney to Chloe, I'll leave too. Agreed to be your boyfriend for a year. I burst out laughing. It was so absurd it almost sounded like a joke. He clearly thought he was making some grand sacrifice. After a pause, he even added, but only in name. During that time, there can't be any physical contact between us. In my previous life, Dylan had said almost the exact same thing. Blinded by love. I agreed then. After the operation, my health deteriorated. My energy faded, and pain became a constant companion. He still looked down on me, despised me even. Now that I saw his true colors, there was no chance I'd ever play the fool again. I looked at his stunned face and smiled. Slowly, cruelly. Dylan. I spoke each word clearly. For a few thousand yuan, I can hire a male model with a great body, one I can touch, hug, and sleep with. You? With your dead face and another woman living rent-free in your heart, you think that's worth one of my kidneys? I, Stella, am worth 10 billion. Do you think you qualify for even a piece of me? His face flushed purple with rage. Stella. Don't be ungrateful. If you miss this chance, don't you dare bother me again. I sneered. Dylan. You're the one who keeps pestering me. Your woman's dying, why should I be the one to save her? If you've got the guts, donate your own kidney. He ground his teeth, visibly suppressing his temper. Stella. Enough with the jealousy and tantrums. If you keep this up, I'll really stop caring about you. Don't come crying to me like before. Then, let out a low sigh, softening his tone as if offering a compromise. He added. Fine. I'll be your boyfriend for 2 years. Chloe's understanding if you give her your kidney. She'll let me stay with you a bit longer. I laughed outright. Borrow? What a joke. So the two of them thought they could lend me trash for 2 years, let him eat my food, spend my money, and still insult me for coming between them? Before I could reply, Noah appeared, his expression murderous. He kicked Dylan square in the chest, sending him sprawling to the ground. Don't you ever look in a mirror, you piece of garbage? Noah snarled. You think your face is lined with gold? 2 years of looking at you in exchange for Stella's kidney? What kind of delusional trash are you? Get lost. Noah glared coldly down at Dylan, who lay groaning on the pavement. Don't show your face to Stella again. We're flying to the UK soon. I added, enunciating each word. From now on, your bridge is your bridge. My road is my road. We're done. Dylan staggered to his feet, eyes wide in disbelief. Study abroad. You're leaving the country? He stared at me as if trying to find proof I was lying. That's impossible. He couldn't believe I would actually go. In his mind, my entire existence revolved around him, that without him, I wouldn't even know how to live. Stella. He spat. I know you're just going on some short trip abroad. You're playing hard to get again. Right? Pathetic. You really disgust me. Noah was done wasting words. He punched him again. I hurried out of the car and grabbed Noah's arm. Don't dirty your hands on trash like him. Turning to Dylan. My voice was icy calm. In family background, character, looks, or ability, what part of you even compares to Noah? When you meet someone truly outstanding, you stop clinging to garbage. Dylan's face went pale. Noah tried and failed to hide his grin. Finally, couldn't fulfill my answer. He smirked and pushed Dylan aside. Good dogs don't block the road. Stella and I have a plane to catch. He opened the car door for me. We got in, and the car sped toward the airport, leaving Dylan behind. In the rearview mirror, his figure grew smaller and smaller. A lonely, pitiful clown abandoned and by the world. Life in England soon settled into a joyful rhythm. Freed from Dylan's shadow, I realized how vast and beautiful the world truly was. Noah and I joined all sorts of clubs, surfed in the ocean, and skied down roaring white slopes. One day, as we lay side by side on the snow, he rolled over and pinned me beneath him, his dark eyes blazing. Stella, listen up. I've liked you since you stole my lollipop when we were 8. I let it slide when you were blind enough to like that sickly bastard. But now that you finally see clearly, it's my turn. From today on, you're mine. I'll be your man, your shield. Anyone who dares hurt you'll tear them apart. I looked into his fierce yet nervous eyes and smiled, nodding gently. His eyes lit up. He leaned down, kissing me with a clumsy urgency, too hard, too hungry, as if he wanted to swallow me whole. We studied together, grew together, and both received offers from top universities. Just when I thought Dylan would never again cross paths with my life, a message from a friend back home shattered that peace. She sent me a video link in a panic. I clicked it, and my face instantly darkened. It was Dylan. He actually went online and posted a video publicly smearing my name. In the video, he looked haggard and pale, his eyes bloodshot, his tone heavy with grief as he faced the camera. I don't know why Stella hates me, or Chloe, so much. Chloe's condition suddenly worse, and because that day in the hospital, she was humiliated and emotionally shattered by Stella. She's now on the verge of death. But Stella, she's off abroad, living it up with another man. The scene then cut to Chloe lying weakly in a hospital bed, an oxygen mask covering her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she sobbed between shallow breaths. I just wanted to be with the one I love. Why is that so hard? Just because Dylan and I are both orphans. Does she think she can use her power to bully us? Their performance was seamless, a perfect duet of lies and pity. They painted themselves as a pair of ill-fated lovers, victims of a cruel, heartless heiress. And I became the wicked rich girl who threw her weight around and turned a blind eye to human suffering. The video went viral overnight. Within hours, it dominated the trending lists. Online, Wang waves of vitriol came crashing down. So the rich can just do whatever they want. She stole a man and nearly killed someone. What filth. My heart breaks for the campus heartthrob and his first love. What a tragic, beautiful romance rue, and by that Stella woman. Chloe's illness worse, and because of Stella. Stella must donate her kidney. Track her down and make her pay. Stella Group. So this is how you raise your daughters? Disgusting. Boycott everything they make. The hate was relentless, suffocating. Because of the public outrage, my family's stock price plummeted. I stared at the vile comments flooding the screen, my hands trembling with fury. Never in my wildest dreams had I imagined Dylan would stoop this low to protect his so-called true love. He twisted the truth and threw me into the storm of public condemnation. But I didn't respond right away. I let the online frenzy burn itself white hot, until every corner of the internet knew my name. Dylan and Chloe were now the nation's beloved victims, tragic, pure, wronged, and I was the despicable villain everyone loved to hate. Just when the entire internet thought I was too guilty to show my face, I went live. The moment my live stream began, millions flooded in. The comments were a wall of hatred and curses. You've got some nerve showing up here. Why don't you just die? Shameless woman. You ruined Chloe's life. Apologize. Donate your kidney. Donate your kidney. Donate your kidney. Donate your kidney. The barrage of donate your kidney filled the entire screen. I ignored them. Calmly, I looked into the camera and pressed play. A recording began to play from my phone. Chloe's condition has suddenly worsened. The doctor said she's gone into acute renal failure. She needs a kidney transplant immediately. Stella, I know you still love me. If you're willing to donate one of your kidneys to Chloe, I promise to be your boyfriend for a year. But only in name. There can't be any physical contact during that time. When the audio ended, the chat that had been overflowing with insults fell into dead silence. For several long seconds, not a single word appeared. Then, what on a low sigh. The comments exploded again, this time in the opposite direction. So he tried to emotionally manipulate her and guilt trip her into giving up a kidney? That's disgusting. Is this guy insane? No physical contact but wants her organ? Go rob a hospital instead. So, he's the one guilt-tripping Stella all along? Chloe's illness had nothing to do with her. I looked straight into the camera. My voice cold and steady. Dylan, I've told you before, I don't love you anymore. Stop using the name of love to morally blackmail and slander me. If you have time to act pitiful online, maybe use it to find a proper donor match. After all, I'll sigh. You love her so much. Don't you? When the live stream ended, Dylan became the target of nationwide outrage. His devoted campus sweetheart persona collapsed overnight, replaced by a new label: the manipulative, parasitic ex-boyfriend. Backed into a corner, desperate to salvage his reputation and keep Chloe by his side, he made a so-called heroic decision. He donated his own kidney. The surgery was successful. Dylan saved Chloe's life and regained a fraction of the sympathy he'd lost, but I couldn't have cared less. 3 months later, a former classmate sent me news from back home. The once celebrated prodigy, the brilliant, humble heartthrob Dylan, had failed his college entrance exams miserably. Because of the surgery, he'd missed the entire final semester of senior year, his most critical study period. Chloe's fate wasn't any better. Both of them ended up enrolling in a mediocre local college. But Dylan didn't mind. Armed with memories of a life already lit, he believed degrees didn't matter, that he could rise again at any time. He thought he held the script to the future in his hands. I looked at their smiling photo at the college gates and couldn't help but laugh. Let's see, I thought, without me, will Dylan's brilliant destiny still come true? At that moment, I was standing by the Seine in Paris with Noah. Sunlight glinting off the water, laughter on the breeze. I had wealth, beauty, a low sigh, a man who loved me, and a radiant future ahead. My life was only just beginning. I would never again waste another second of my life on someone like Dylan. Even though I made a point of ignoring any news about him, my well-meaning friends back home would occasionally bring him up. Dylan firmly believed that along with his second chance at life came the beginning of a blissful, hardship-free future with Chloe. He thought that without my interference, their love would only grow sweeter. What he conveniently forgot was that, back in high school, he'd only managed to give Chloe her so-called princess life because I'd kept slipping him money she happily spent on designer handbags and fine dining without blinking an eye. Though both were orphans, they had lived as comfortably as the spoiled rich kids, thanks entirely to me, their personal ATM. Now that my money was gone, the two parasites who had grown addicted to luxury couldn't handle ordinary life. Chloe, especially, began to despise Dylan for being poor. The truth was, Chloe had never loved the penniless Dylan, only the potential Dylan I had gilded with my money. This time around, without me in the picture, Dylan's supposed advantage as a reborn man meant little. Lacking seed money and connections, he was crippled from the start. His so-called business foresight was nothing more than empty theory without capital to back it. Worse still, with only one kidney left, his health was failing fast. A change in weather left him feverish. A late night gave him dizzy spells. He was no longer capable of working like a healthy young man. His so-called knowledge of the future crumbled in the face of brutal reality. To keep himself and Chloe afloat, he was forced to swallow his pride and take the kind of odd jobs he once looked down on, barely earning enough to survive. At first, Chloe could still put on a smile here and there, but as the days dragged on, poverty gnawed away at her patience. Dylan noticed her growing resentment, but he brushed it off as normal couple quarrels, believing that little fights would make their love stronger. Then she began to complain about the cramped apartment, about his cheap clothes. And soon, a black luxury car started appearing outside their building. He knew the car's owner, Mr. Wang, a bloated, 50-year-old nouveau rich who had pursued Chloe even back in high school. Dylan's bit twisted with unease. But he told himself it was just insecurity born of his current misfortune. Chloe hadn't fulfilled what he thought. Had suffered so much for him, how could he ever doubt her? He swore to work harder, to give her the life she deserved. Until her birthday came. That day, Dylan labored like a beast at a dusty construction site. His old back injury flared with stabbing pain. But he endured it. With his meager day's pay, he reserved a table at the French restaurant she'd been dreaming about and bought her a delicate, inexpensive necklace. Clutching the little box, he waited for her outside their apartment complex, eager to surprise her. Then he saw the black sedan pull up and Chloe stepping inside. His heart plummeted. Without thinking, he followed. Under the shroud of night, the black car rocked rhythmically. From within came Chloe's breathless moans. Through the half-lowered window, he saw her astride the older man. Her clothes disheveled, head tilted back, eyes glazed with lust. The world spun. His stomach churned violently. Rage and humiliation exploded in him, shredding the last of his sanity. He charged forward, yanked the car door open, punched Mr. Wang hard across the face, then dragged Chloe out by the arm, striking her again and again. "You filthy whore. I ruined my life for you, and this is how you repay me?" Onlookers began to whisper and point. Soon, when out a low sigh, Wang's bodyguards pulled Dylan off and beat him mercilessly. Through the blood on her face, Chloe sneered. "Yes. I'm with Mr. Wang. So what? He buys me her mess. He takes me to the finest restaurants. What can you give me? Look at you reeking of sweat and dirt. You're no better than a common laborer." Dylan, bleeding and trembling, screamed hoarsely. "I gave you a kidney. I destroyed my body for you. If you hadn't played the hero," she snapped back, "I would have been with Mr. Wang long ago. He would have paid for the best doctors, the best treatment. I wouldn't have suffered through that surgery at all." Looping her arm around the very man she once despised, she leaned her head on Wang's shoulder and said coldly, "We're done. I want a man who can give me a future, not a sickly loser who only knows how to talk big." Dylan stood frozen, watching as she got back into the car and drove away with Wang. He couldn't understand. He had been reborn. He had all his memories, all his so-called foresight, so how could he still end up with nothing? His childhood sweetheart was gone. The girl who used to worship him was gone too. He thought of how I'd once cared for him. How if I were still around, I would have pitied him, lifted him up, sent my bodyguards to teach Wang and Chloe a lesson, and then made sure he got the best medical care. Instead, like a stray dog, he crawled back to his shabby little apartment, waiting for the pain to fade. Perhaps desperation drove him mad, for he began obsessively searching for me, his loyal admirer. When my phone number didn't work, he went to my old university, only to learn that no such student existed. During the holidays, he even showed up at my family home, where the butler told him I had indeed gone abroad. The butler later said Dylan knelt at our gate, knocking his head against the ground over and over, begging for forgiveness until my parents had him thrown out, mistaking him for a vagrant. Years later, Noah and I returned home. Degrees in hand, I took over the family business while my parents set off to travel the world. Noah founded his own tech company, which quickly flourished. At a high-profile business gala one evening, I saw Dylan again. He was there as a low-level employee, tagging along behind his boss, trying to network for scraps of investment. He looked gaunt and worn, his cheap suit washed pale, hair unkempt, stubble shadowing his jaw. The once celebrated campus heartthrob was long gone. Most of our old classmates didn't even recognize him. He sat in a corner, silently nursing a drink, his dull eyes fixed on me, the woman who now shone at the center of the crowd, with Noah by my side. When the event ended, he stepped in front of me, blocking my way. "Stella." His voice was hoarse as he spoke. "I regret it. These years have made me realize. In this world, only you ever truly cared for me. I never really forgot you. I've always loved you. It's just. I was broke, ashamed, too useless to face you. He rambled incoherently, reaching out to grab my hand. Stella, please give me another chance. Will you? Looking at his pitiful state, I found it all laughably absurd. When I loved him, he insulted me, called me pathetic, a desperate fool. Now that I don't, he's the one begging on his knees. Dylan, I said, holding up my hand so he could see the ring on my finger. Noah and I are getting married next month. Dylan's body trembled violently, as if struck by lightning. His face turned deathly pale. He stared at us blankly, his lips trembling, unable to form a word. After a long while, he let out a hollow laugh, picked up his wine glass, and raised it shakily. I missed my chance. Didn't I? Well, congratulations. May you both be happy. Forever. He lifted the glass toward me, his hand trembling. Disdained. Consider it my apology. All I wanted was to end this farce once and for all. So I raised my glass too and took a small sip. But the moment the liquid touched my tongue, I knew something was wrong. A wave of dizziness crashed over me, and my vision blurred. The last thing I saw was Dylan's twisted, deranged face. When I woke again, I was lying on the soft hotel bed. Dylan was on top of me, his hands tugging at my clothes. He was trying to recreate the same vile scene from my past life, the drunken night that ruined everything. Stella, don't be afraid. His eyes were wild, filled with a warped kind of obsession. Once tonight is over, you'll be carrying my child again. Then you'll have to marry me, and we can start over. He wanted to use me, the heiress of the Stella Group, to claw his way out of ruin and back to power. Utterly disgusting. In your dreams, I snarled, glaring at his repulsive face. I tried to kick him away, but my body was weak from the drug. He easily caught my leg and pinned me down, prying my knees apart. My struggle was feeble, powerless. Excitement gleamed in his eyes as he reached for his belt. I swear, Stella, this time I'll love only you. I'll give you the whole world. And just then, the door burst open with a thunderous crash. Noah stormed in with his bodyguards. The moment he saw the scene before him, his eyes went blood red. He charged forward, punching and kicking Dylan with unrestrained fury. You filthy bastard. I'll kill you. Dylan couldn't fight back at all. He lay crumpled on the floor, bleeding and broken, muttering deliriously. Why did everything fall apart after I was reborn? Stella, you're the only one I've ever loved. Why won't you look at me? Then, let out a low sigh, as if struck by some revelation. He struggled to his feet, eyes locked on me. You're reborn too, aren't you? Stella, you're reborn too. I looked at his crazed expression, utterly calm. Yes, I think did let out a low sigh. I said softly, my tone as still as a mirror. I remember everything from the last life. I remember kneeling, 9 months pregnant, at the grave of your childhood sweetheart, Chloe, begging for forgiveness. And I remember how you stood there, watching, as that cold truck crushed me and our unborn child into the dirt. Dylan's face drained of color, turning paper white. He waved his hands frantically, stammering, no, it wasn't me. It was an accident. The truck, it wasn't my fault. I froze. Noah's eyes darkened. Hearing my words, he launched another furious punch. He then pulled me into his arms, holding me tightly, his voice choked with remorse. If only I'd been braver in our last life, if I'd killed that bastard sooner. Taking you away sooner, you wouldn't have suffered like that. Leaning against his warm chest, I shook my head gently. It's not your fault. It's all over now. Dylan looked up at us, at the love in Noah's eyes, the peace in mine, and whatever fragile hope he had left shattered completely. He'd lost, utterly, hadn't fulfilled my shy. Completely lost. He staggered out of the hotel like a madman, stumbling into the street. In the distance, a massive truck hurtled toward him, horn blaring. The blinding headlights illuminated his despair-stricken face. He looked at the oncoming vehicle and suddenly smiled a strange, eerie smile. Murmuring under his breath, he said, "If I die, I can be reborn again. Next time, I'll have Stella. I'll have a healthy body. A bright future. I won't be Dylan anymore. I won't be tied to Chloe." With that desperate, delusional hope, he spread his arms wide and stepped forward. Bang! But this time, there was no rebirth waiting for him. And I, resting safely in the arms of the man I loved, finally began the peaceful, happy life that should have been mine all along. I am the most envied woman in Hai Chang. Married to Tyler. A rising star in the business world. Living a life of luxury. But that one night, in our brightly lit mansion, he coldly signed the documents that would hand me over to a notorious man. All to protect his career. And I, pregnant with his child, became nothing more than a pawn in his trade. In my past life, I have fought desperately, only to see my child die tragically and myself fall apart. But now, reborn, I looked at the familiar face in the mirror and smiled. This time, I shall leave too. Tyler and his first love, Nora, will pay the price. However, as I set out on my path of vengeance, I discovered that the truth behind it all was far more cruel than I had imagined. The night in Hai Chang always carries a salty, damp scent. I stood on the balcony at Tyler's family mansion, the wind messing up my long hair. Downstairs, Tyler's car slowly entered the yard, its headlights stinging my eyes. Tonight, he would tell me something that would shatter my heart. I lowered my gaze and touched my slightly swollen belly. The child was only 3 months along, not yet fully formed, but already considered a threat in the eyes of others. "Lulu, come down. The young master has something to say to you." Aunt Wang stood at the door, her voice carrying a hint of unease. I smiled faintly, calm as still water. "Okay." In the living room, Tyler sat on the sofa, impeccably dressed in a suit, though his handsome face betrayed signs of exhaustion. Beside him, Nora clung to him like a delicate kitten, her fingers lightly resting on his arm. Seeing this, my heart felt like it was pricked by needles. But I had long grown accustomed to such pain. "Lulu, York has requested that you go to his villa." Tyler's voice was as cold as ice. And he didn't even look at me. "York?" I pretended to be surprised, but my voice was eerily calm. York, the king of Hai Chang's underworld, rumored to have strange tastes. Surrounded by women, yet none ever left his villa alive. Yes, getting fulfilled my obsession. "Lulu, it's your fortune that York has taken an interest in you." Nora spoke softly, but a gleam of pride flashed in her eyes. I scoffed. "Fortune? Then why don't you go enjoy this fortune yourself?" Nora's face stiffened, but Tyler suddenly slammed his hand on the table. "Lulu, don't push it. York said if you don't go, the Tyler family will go bankrupt. Do you want me to lose everything?" I looked into his furious eyes and suddenly found it amusing. In my past life, I had been forced like this, crying and begging him to let me go. But what did he do? He not only sent me to York, but on the day of our child's birth, he personally strangled our baby. He said it was revenge because I had harmed his first love, Nora. At that moment, I realized he had never loved me. He loved Nora, the woman who had abandoned him when he was at his lowest but returned once he had succeeded. This time, I would no longer be that foolish woman who only cried. "Fine, I'll go." I spoke calmly, my tone unwavering. Tyler froze, seemingly surprised by my acceptance. Nora, however, smiled even more sweetly, her voice soft. "Lulu, you really understand the bigger picture. Mr. John will surely appreciate your sacrifice." I ignored her and turned to go upstairs to pack. Aunt Wang followed me, her eyes red. "Lulu, are you really going? York's place. Once you go, you might never come back." I paused, smiling faintly. "Aunt Wang, don't worry. I have my own plan." In my room, I carefully packed my clothes, but my mind was already formulating the next steps. In my past life, I fought tooth and nail, forcing Nora to take my place at York's villa. When she returned, she was mentally broken and committed suicide by slashing her wrists. The autopsy report revealed she had been pregnant. Tyler pretended to be patient. But on the day I gave birth, he personally strangled our child. He said it was my fault because I had killed Nora. This time, I wouldn't make the same mistake. I would make Tyler and Nora pay the price. But before that, I had to protect myself and the child. Lulu, can't you beg the young master? Aunt Wang wiped her tears, her voice breaking. Back when the young master's company went bankrupt, you stayed up with him, helped him plead with investors. And that's why Tyler's family has its fortune today. How can he treat you like this? I shook my head. Aunt Wang, Tyler's heart has already been given to Nora. It's useless to beg him. As soon as I spoke, a cold laugh echoed from the door. Lulu, you really know how to play the victim. I looked up to see Nora leaning against the doorframe, a mocking smile on her face. She held a cup of water in her hand, shaking it with a teasing tone. Don't think I don't know. You're trying to use the child in your belly to keep Mr. John. But too bad he told me he only loves me. With that, she suddenly splashed the water in my face. The cold water dripped down my hair, carrying the faint scent of medicine. Nora, what are you doing? Aunt Wang, furious, lunged at her, but I stopped her. I wiped the water from my face, fixed my gaze on Nora, and smiled. Nora, you're so eager to get rid of me because you're afraid I'll come back and take your place. Aren't you? Her expression changed, a flash of panic in her eyes. You're talking nonsense. I'm just kindly advising you to stop being ungrateful. I didn't respond. I turned back to continue packing my things. But Nora didn't relent. She leaned close to my ear and whispered, Lulu, do you want to guess if I accidentally trip? Would Mr. John be heartbroken? Before I could react, she suddenly screamed and fell backward. Ah, help! At the same time, Tyler rushed in, catching Nora in his arms. Nora, are you okay? Nora clutched her stomach and shook her head, looking pitiful. Mr. John, don't blame Lulu. She's jealous that I'm carrying your child. In a fit of jealousy, she pushed me. Tyler turned sharply, his eyes cold enough to cut. Lulu, you really disgust me. He rushed toward me, slapping me hard across the face. My cheek burned with pain, and blood seeped from the corner of my mouth. Aunt Wang was in tears, kneeling and begging. Master, you can't treat Lulu like this. She has claustrophobia. Don't you remember how, for you, hadn't so felt my obsession? She was locked in a dark room for 3 days and nights. Almost dying? Tyler ignored her, coldly ordering the bodyguards. Lock her in the basement. No food or water without my orders. Nora added fuel to the fire. Aunt Wang, you're from the Z family too. Why do you always protect Lulu? What has she given you that you're so loyal? Aunt Wang trembled with rage but was held back by the bodyguards. I was dragged into the basement, and the door slammed shut behind me. Darkness rushed in like a tidal wave. The basement was pitch black, and I curled up in the corner, my breath growing quicker. 2 years ago, Tyler's rival had kidnapped me to force him out of a bed. They locked me in a sealed box, leaving me without food or water for 3 days and nights. Since then, I've suffered from heart palpitations and even fainting spells whenever I enter a dark place. Tyler knew this, yet he still locked me in here. I gritted my teeth, telling myself I couldn't fall apart. I had to survive. I had to seek revenge. I don't know how much time passed before the door opened. Tyler stood at the door, the dim light casting a cold, distant shadow across his face. Lulu, do you realize your mistake? I lifted my head, my voice hoarse. Tyler, you'll regret this. He furrowed his brow, as if about to say something, but was interrupted by Nora. Mr. John, your scar has arrived. Don't let Lulu delay things. Tyler snorted coldly, turning to leave. But Nora walked over and handed me a bottle of water. Drink some water. Lulu, so you have the strength to serve your con away. I stared at the bottle, a strange odor filling my nostrils. Noticing I wasn't moving, She had the bodyguard hold me down and forcefully poured it into my mouth. The water slid down my throat, carrying a sharp, pungent taste. After forcing the water down, Nora smiled smugly like a triumphant fox. Lulu. Just go ahead. If you happen to die at Yerkes Villa, I'll take care of your body. She leaned closer to my ear, whispering. As for the child between Mr. Zhang and me, they'll call me Mom. And the Zhang family will belong to us. The bodyguard dragged me out of the basement. And Yerkes' assistant was waiting outside, seeing my pale face and shaky steps. He panicked. Lulu. What's wrong? Yerk made it clear. You can't get hurt. I shook my head. My voice weak. Just take me away. The luxury car slowly pulled away from the Zhang family mansion. I leaned against the window, watching Nora's triumphant smile behind me. A smirk curling at the corner of my lips. Did she think she had won? The real show had just begun. Halfway there, a dull pain began to creep across my abdomen. Before long, the paint whisted through my insides like a blade. I suddenly realized Nora had tampered with the water she'd given me. She wasn't trying to humiliate me. She was trying to kill me. She feared I would return alive and threatened the position she had so desperately stolen. She wanted me dead on the way to Yerkes Villa. So the blame would fall on York. And no one would suspect her. I gritted my teeth and whispered to the assistant in the front seat. My stomach hurts. Help me. The assistant's face turned pale with fear. Lulu. Hold on. I'll take you to the hospital right away. Half an hour later, a car stopped outside a private hospital. I was carried into the emergency room, my consciousness fading. The assistant was drenched in sweat, muttering nonstop. Lulu. You can't be in danger. Yerk will kill me. I struggled to maintain my last bit of awareness and whispered. Call Hansen. Tell him I'm dying. The assistant nodded hurriedly and ran out to make the call. I closed my eyes, but a faint smile curled at the corner of my lips. Hansen. My savior from years ago. Also Yerk's nephew. As long as he came, I would have a chance at survival. I don't know how long passed, but I vaguely heard arguing outside the door. What happened? How did she get so badly injured? Calm down. York. It was Nora, Tyler's associate. She gave Lulu abortion pills. I forced my eyes open and saw a tall man rush in. His face was ashen. His eyes filled with panic. Lulu. He scooped me into his arms. His voice trembling. Don't be afraid. I'm here. I lost consciousness. But a long-buried memory surfaced in my mind. The year I first met Tyler. I was a newly debuted model attending a charity dinner. After the dinner, I saved a man in the parking lot who had been injured. His name was Hansen. He claimed to be chased by enemies and had nowhere to turn. I felt sorry for him. So I took him in for a month. After his injury healed, he left a note saying that if I ever needed help, I could always contact him. Later, I heard he returned to the York family and became York's nephew. I never thought to contact him again. Until today. In my dream, I returned to the days when Tyler and I first met. Back then, he was just an entrepreneur with nothing to his name. His parents had died in a car crash, and his company was on the brink of bankruptcy. His first love, Nora, abandoned him for being poor and left for abroad without a second glance. He locked himself in a rental apartment, his eyes bloodshot from constant tears. I couldn't bear it. I cancelled a modeling gig and stayed by his side. Tyler. You still have me. I believe you can turn things around. From that day on, I stayed up with him writing business plans, accompanied him to meet investors, and even learned to cook. When he got too busy to eat, I would bring him meals at his office, smiling as I said, business is important, but your health is more important. Once, when he hadn't slept for 3 days, I dragged him from the computer and tucked him into bed. Lulu, Walmaro. Are you annoying? I still have a contract to sign. He glared at me, puffing out his cheeks. I'm annoying. But you still have to put up with me. I handed him warm milk and said with a smile. If you don't sleep, I won't leave. He stared at me for a long time, then suddenly smiled. Lulu. With you here, I really feel like I can make it. Later, His company started to improve, while I slowly faded out of the modeling world. My friends said I was crazy, giving up a bright future to be a good wife to a man. But I didn't care. Because I loved Tyler. He got so busy he couldn't take care of himself, so I made him meals every day, changing up the menu. Braised pork, sweet and sour fish, mapo tofu. He ate them all with a greasy smile and would tease me. Lulu, with your cooking, I could open a restaurant and never have to start a business. I laughed and said, then you'll have to pay me. I'll only serve one boss. Days passed until the day his company went public. At the celebration banquet, he stood on stage, confident and full of ambition. I stood below, watching him, my eyes full of pride. Then, one out a low sigh. Unexpectedly, he came down, knelt before me, and pulled out a ring. Lulu, I used to think I would never believe in love again. You stayed with me through the hardest days, helping me stand back up. He took a deep breath, his voice shaking. I can't give you the whole world, but I am willing to give you everything I have. Lulu, marry me. At that moment, I felt like the happiest woman in the world. But then, the dream shifted, and the scene changed. I woke up from my fainting spell to the faint scent of disinfectant in the air. Outside, the sky had darkened, and the hospital room was lit only by a dim yellow wall light. I moved my fingers, feeling drained, yet lighter than before. Lulu, you're awake. A familiar voice called out urgently beside me. I turned my head to see Hanson sitting by my bed, his handsome face full of concern. His shirt was slightly wrinkled, and the collar was slightly open, as if he hadn't slept in days. Hanson. My voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping my throat. He quickly took a cup of warm water and carefully helped me drink. Don't speak. Drink some water first. The doctor says you're fine. And the baby is safe. At his words, I relaxed, but tears uncontrollably filled my eyes. In my past life, my child hadn't survived. Tyler had strangled him with his own hands. This time, no matter what, I would protect him. Thank you, Hanson. I held his hand, my voice choking. Hanson paused for a moment, then smiled, his eyes softening with a hint of tenderness. Why thank me? You saved my life back then. This life of mine has long been owed to you. He hesitated, his tone growing more serious. Lulu, tell me, what exactly happened? Who drugged you? I took a deep breath, recounting the details of how Nora poured the water and administered the drug, leaving nothing out. Nora. How bold. He stood up, as though ready to rush out immediately. I quickly grabbed his arm. Hanson. Don't be impulsive. Nora has Tyler's backing. If you go after her now, it will only alert her. Hanson furrowed his brows, a hint of unwillingness flashing in his eyes. Are we just going to let her get away with this? I smiled, cold light flickering in my eyes. Let her go. She owes me. I'll make sure she pays back 100 times over. 7 outside the hospital room. Assistant Wang from York's office walked in, holding a file. Lulu, York asked me to tell you that he has found out the truth about your poisoning. I took the file from him and flipped it open. Inside were the proof of Nora buying abortion pills, as well as her call records with Tyler. In the records, Tyler clearly stated that as long as I went to York's villa, the company's crisis would be resolved. As for the child in my womb, he didn't care at all, even saying, if it's gone, it's gone. We can always have another. My hand trembled slightly as I read, and hatred surged within me like a creeping vine. Tyler, in my past life, you killed our child. In this life, you are just as cold-blooded. Hanson slammed his fist into the wall after reading the file. That bastard. Tyler. Lulu. Don't worry. I will make sure he pays for this. I held his hand down and said calmly. Hanson. The score between Tyler and Nora is mine to settle. For now, I need your help. Hanson was taken aback but nodded. What do you need me to do? I whispered. Help me contact York. I want to meet him. Hanson frowned, seeming hesitant. Lulu. My uncle. He has a peculiar temper. Are you sure you want to meet him? I nodded firmly. Hanson. I have my reasons. Since Yerk is willing to help me uncover the truth, it means he has no ill intentions. Hanson sighed but ultimately agreed. All right. I'll arrange it. That evening, Yerk personally came to the hospital. Lulu. I've heard much about you. I struggled to sit up and respectfully spoke. Yerk. Thank you for saving my life. Yerk waved his hand, signaling for me to lie back down. No need to thank me. Hanson is my nephew. And since you saved him, it's only right that I help you. He paused, his gaze lingering on me with a trace of something deeper. However, Lulu, I'm curious. Why didn't you resist? Tyler was going to send you to me. And you could have refused. I smiled and spoke calmly. Yerk, who doesn't know your reputation in Hai Chang? Tyler was determined to send me. Resisting would have been useless. Rather than waste my energy, I decided to go with the flow and see what exactly you wanted. Yerk laughed heartily. Good. No wonder Hanson likes you. You've got guts. His laughter faded, and his tone grew serious. Lulu, I'll be honest with you. I didn't bring you here for those ridiculous rumors. What I'm interested in is your intelligence and determination. I was taken aback, not expecting him to say such a thing. Yerk, what do you mean by that? Yerk squinted his eyes, speaking slowly. Tyler's family has expanded too quickly over the years, and its foundation is unstable. I have evidence proving that Tyler was involved in illegal fundraising and money laundering when the company went public. If you're willing, I can help you take back everything that belongs to you. My heart skipped a beat. The Tyler family group was something I helped build from the ground up with Tyler. The initial capital came from my modeling income, and even the first investment was something I helped secure. But later, after he became successful, he kicked me aside. Yerk, why are you helping me? I fixed my gaze on him, trying to understand his motives. Yerk smiled, a gleam of sharpness in his eyes. Because I hate men like Tyler who are ungrateful. Plus, hadn't fulfilled land session. Hanson likes you, and I have to pave the way for him. Right? My face flushed, and Hanson cleared his throat awkwardly beside me. Uncle. Stop saying things like that. Yerk laughed heartily and, before leaving, said, Lulu, take care of yourself. In 3 days, I'll take you to meet someone. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital. Hanson personally drove me to a villa on the outskirts of Hai Chang, owned by Yerk. The villa was nestled against the mountains and by the water, heavily guarded, like a secret fortress. As we entered the living room, I saw Yerk sitting with a middle-aged man, drinking tea. The man wore gold-rimmed glasses, his demeanor cultured, yet he exuded an undeniable authority. Yerk introduced, Lulu, this is Lawyer Lee, the Hai Chang's top commercial lawyer. Lawyer Lee stood up and nodded to me. Lulu, I've reviewed your case. Half of the original shares of the Tyler family group are under your name. If you're willing, I can help you file a lawsuit and get back what belongs to you. I felt a jolt of shock and struggled to suppress my excitement. Lawyer Lee, Tyler has changed the company's legal representative to himself over the years and manipulated the shares. Do I still have a chance? Lawyer Lee smiled and handed me a thick file. Lulu, Tyler is indeed cunning. But he forgot something. All the contracts from when the company was established still have your signature. As long as we can prove you were the original investor, the court will support your claim. I flipped open the file and saw the familiar signature and contracts. My heartbeat quickening. All these years, I thought Tyler had stripped me of everything. But now, it seemed there was still a chance to turn things around. Thank you, Lawyer Lee. Please help me. I want Tyler to lose everything. Yerk clapped his hands in approval. Good. Lulu, I didn't misjudge you. Next, what you need to do is to show up publicly, to throw Tyler and Nora off balance. Hanson frowned and interjected. Uncle, Lulu isn't fully recovered yet. Isn't it too risky to go public? Yerk waved his hand. Hanson, you don't understand. Right now, Tyler thinks Lulu is dead, and he and Nora are preparing their wedding. If Lulu shows up now, it will be a blow to them. I nodded, agreeing with York's plan. York, I'll follow your lead. 9 days later. The biggest business gala in Chang was held as scheduled. Tyler and Nora attended as an engaged couple, receiving endless compliments. The banquet hall was brightly lit, glasses clinking, and laughter echoing. Tyler wore a black suit, his demeanor full of pride, while Nora, dressed in a white gown, clung to his arm, smiling like a blooming white lotus. Mr. Jong, congratulations on your marriage to Nora. I heard Nora is pregnant. What a double blessing. The guests' flattery filled the air, and Tyler smiled triumphantly. Nora, meanwhile, lowered her head shyly, pretending to be gentle and demure. Just then, let out a low sigh. The doors of the banquet hall swung open. I stepped in, wearing a red gown, slowly making my way inside. Behind me, Hansen and Dirk stood side by side, their presence commanding enough to silence the entire room. When Tyler saw me, his face instantly turned pale, his hand loosening, causing his glass of wine to fall and nearly shatter. Lulu? You're not dead? Nora took a step back, her voice trembling with fear. How is that possible? She didn't finish her sentence. Realizing she had let something slip, she quickly covered her mouth. I let out a cold laugh, stepping forward slowly. Nora, you gave me abortion pills, thinking I would surely die, right? Unfortunately, I'm not that easy to kill. I survived. The room erupted in a stir, guests whispering among themselves in hushed tones. Tyler snapped back to reality, enraged and humiliated. Lulu, you're talking nonsense. It was you who cheated during our marriage. And that's why I divorced you. I smiled faintly, waving my hand as Assistant Wang handed me a file. Tyler, the divorce was your idea, but you've forgotten that I provided the startup capital for the company. Half of the original stock is in my name. I raised the file high, my voice cold. According to the law, half of the Zhang family business belongs to me. And now, I'm taking it back. Tyler's face turned ashen. He lunged toward the file, but Hansen stopped him. Tyler, you dare touch her? Yerk sneered from the side. President Tyler, let me give you some advice. Don't humiliate yourself. Lulu's legal team is ready, and tomorrow, a court will process her claim. Nora panicked and rushed to Tyler's side, crying bitterly. Mr. Zhang, don't listen to her. She's just jealous of me, trying to ruin our wedding. I watched her coldly, speaking slowly. Nora, you can stop your little act now. The police have already found that during your time at the company, you were involved in embezzling funds and money laundering. The evidence is irrefutable, and there's no way out for you. As soon as I finished speaking, several police officers entered the room, heading straight for Nora. Nora, you are suspected of economic crimes. Please come with us. Nora collapsed to the ground, desperately struggling. It wasn't me. It was Tyler who ordered me to do it. He made me. Tyler slapped her hard across the face, furious. Nora, you wretched woman. I was blind to believe you. As Nora was dragged away, she continued cursing. Tyler, may you never have peace. I'm carrying your child. And yet, you don't even care about me. The banquet hall erupted into chaos, with guests gossiping in disbelief. Tyler's face was pale, collapsing into a chair, as though all his strength had been drained. I stepped forward, looking down at him. Tyler, this is what you owe me. Take your time paying it back. After the banquet, I became the center of attention in High City. Some people called me the abandoned wife, while others called me the queen who made a comeback. But I didn't care what others thought. All I wanted was to take back what was mine. York's villa became my temporary home. Hansen came to see me almost every day, helping me with legal matters. He always smiled gently, though there was a hint of caution in his demeanor. Lulu, what are your plans for the future? After you take back the Zhang family business, do you want to take control again? I looked out the window at the night sky and smiled. Hansen, the Zhang family business is my work from years ago. I won't let it be destroyed by Tyler. But as for the future, I haven't decided yet. He fell silent for a moment. Then suddenly took my hand. Lulu. No matter what you decide, I'll support you. I felt warmth in my heart, but also a sense of unease. I wasn't blind to Hanson's feelings for me, but I had just emerged from a failed marriage. And I wasn't ready to embrace new love yet. Hanson. Thank you. But I bit my lip, unsure of how to express myself. He smiled and released my hand, his tone light. Don't rush. Lulu. I'm not pushing you. I just want you to know that I'll always be here for you. In that moment, I felt like the man before me was a beacon of light, warm and unwavering. The wind in High City grew colder, as if signaling an impending storm. I stood on the balcony of York's villa, holding a court summons in my hand. Tomorrow, the lawsuit over the Zhang family business shares would officially begin. Lawyer Lee said the chances of winning were 90%, but I still felt uneasy. Tyler wasn't the type to sit back and wait. I took the cup, smiling slightly. Nothing much. Just feel like this battle isn't over yet. He stood beside me, his gaze gentle but resolute. No matter what tricks Tyler has up his sleeve, I won't let him hurt you again. I felt warmth in my heart, but just as I was about to speak, my phone rang. It was Assistant Wang. His voice hurried. Lulu. Something's wrong. Nora has committed suicide in the detention center. I froze, almost dropping my tea. Suicide? What happened? Assistant Wang gasped for breath. Speaking quickly, she left behind a suicide note, saying that Tyler had ordered her to do everything, including embezzling funds and drugging you. She also said that Tyler is hiding an even bigger secret in the Zhang family's underground vault. My mind went blank, and I immediately looked at Hanson. Hanson. Tyler's secret. We have to find it before he does. Hanson frowned, his voice low. I'll contact my uncle right away and have him send someone to investigate. That night, York assembled a skilled team to infiltrate the underground vault of the Zhang family business. According to Assistant Wang's information, Tyler had hidden a lot of unsavory ledgers and contracts in the vault over the years, involving illegal fundraising, bribing officials, and even dealings with foreign powers. If this evidence were exposed, Tyler would not only lose the company but could also end up in prison. Lulu. This is a risky operation. Are you sure you want to go yourself? York sat in his study, his eyes sharp like an eagle's. I nodded, my tone firm. York. Tyler rose me. I'm taking it back with my own hands. Hanson frowned, wanting to advise me, but I interrupted him. Hanson. I know you're worried, but this is something I have to do. He sighed, finally relenting. All right, but I'm going with you. At midnight, the Zhang family building was brightly lit, and though it appeared to be employees working late, they were actually security personnel hired by Tyler. Hanson and I, with York's team, entered through the building's ventilation pipes. The pipes were narrow and dark, and my heart raced like a drum. The shadow of claustrophobia loomed over me once more. Hanson took my hand, whispering, Lulu, don't be afraid. I'm here. His voice was like a soothing balm, and I took a deep breath, forcing myself to remain calm. Finally, having fulfilled my euphoria, we reached the entrance to the underground vault. York's technician quickly cracked the code on the lock, and the heavy iron door slowly creaked open. The vault was filled with boxes of documents and hard drives, the air thick with a musty smell. We split up to search, time ticking by, and cold sweat beaded on my forehead. Just then, Hanson called out softly, Lulu. I found it. He handed me an encrypted hard drive, filled with evidence of Tyler's crimes. Just as I was about to let out a sigh of relief, a cold laugh came from behind me. Lulu, you really are relentless. I spun around sharply to see Tyler standing in the doorway, holding a gun in his hand. Behind him were several men in black, each exuding a murderous aura. Tyler. You. My heart tightened. I hadn't expected him to be guarding the vault himself. Tyler sneered, his eyes filled with venom. Lulu. You destroyed my company. Killed Nora. And now you want to take my lifeblood? Dream on. Hansen stepped in front of me. His voice steady but firm. Tyler. Put the gun down. We already have the evidence. You can't run. Tyler laughed maniacally. His laughter tinged with madness. Run? Why should I run? Lulu. You forced me into this. He raised the gun and pulled the trigger. Almost instantly, Hansen shoved me aside, taking the bullet in his shoulder. Hansen! I screamed, rushing to catch his falling body. Tyler tried to fire a second shot, but Yerkstein stormed in, quickly overpowering his men. Tyler was pinned to the ground, still cursing under his breath. Lulu. You bitch. I'll never let you off, even if I become a ghost. I looked at him coldly, my voice icy. Tyler. You bugged me this for a long time. 13 Tyler was taken away by the police. And the evidence in the underground belt became the final straw that broke him. The next day, in court, my lawsuit over the company's shares was successful, and the Tyler family group officially returned to my hands. The media covered the business storm extensively, with some condemning Tyler for his ingratitude and others praising me for being a strong woman. I stood in the top floor office of the Tyler family group, looking down at the lights of Hai Chang. This had once been the place where Tyler and I had fought side by side, and now, it was just me left standing. Lulu. Congratulations. Hansen opened the door and stepped inside, his shoulders still wrapped in bandages. Hansen. Thank you. Without you, I could never have made it to this point. Lulu. I told you. I'll always be by your side. I looked at him, my eyes suddenly welling up with tears. In my past life, I had given my heart to Tyler, only to be met with nothing but scars. In this life, Hansen, with his sincerity, had slowly stitched my wounds back together. Hansen. I bit my lip, finally summoning the courage. I want to try accepting you, but can you give me some time? Hansen froze for a moment before smiling, his eyes sparkling like stars. Of course. I'll wait for you. I'll wait a lifetime. 14 A few months later, my belly was growing bigger, and the baby was already 7 months along. At Yerk's villa, Hansen and I were busy preparing the nursery. He clumsily assembled the crib, beads of sweat forming on his forehead, yet he smiled like a child. Lulu, do you think our baby will look like me? If it takes after you, it'll definitely be beautiful. But if it takes after me, it might be a bit cheeky. I laughed and tapped his head lightly. It's better if it takes after you. Smart and gentle. Yerk walked into the room and, seeing this scene, laughed heartily. Look at you two. So sweet. Even an old man like me feels jealous. He paused, his tone turning serious. Lulu, I need to be honest with you about something. I froze and set the blanket aside. Yerk, go ahead. Yerk sighed, speaking slowly. Actually, hadn't förstått med Sasho. I'm helping you. Not just because of Hansen. Back then, when you say Hansen, I was there too. You don't know. But that day, I was set up and almost lost my life. It was you who hit him. And because of that, I was able to save myself. I stood there, stunned, not knowing that there was more to the story. Yerk. He waved his hand and smiled. Don't thank me. Hansen has liked you for a long time. I saw that right away. Seeing you two together, this old man can finally rest easy. On the day our child was born, it rained lightly in High City. I lay in the hospital's delivery room, holding Hansen's hand as he repeatedly whispered, "Don't be afraid." Several hours later, a healthy baby boy was born, crying loudly. When the nurse handed him to me, my tears flowed freely. In my previous life, I couldn't protect my child. This time, I had finally succeeded. Hansen gazed at the baby, smiling like a fool. Lulu, his eyes are just like yours, big and bright. I leaned against his shoulder, smiling as I said, Hansen, thank you for giving me a home. 6 months later, Hansen and I held a simple wedding. Yerk himself was the officiant, his grin wide and beaming. Yes. Lulu, you're lucky to have caught Yerk's eye. The day after our wedding, Tyler's death made the news headlines. He had suffered a heart attack in prison and couldn't be revived. Some said it was out of guilt. Others said it was karma. But for me, his death was simply the end of an old chapter. After the wedding, Hanson and I led a peaceful and happy life. I took back control of the John family business and renamed it LUH Group, symbolizing the new beginning between Hanson and me. The company thrived, becoming a benchmark in High City's business scene. Hanson resigned from his position in the York family business and focused on staying by my side. He enjoyed experimenting with new dishes. Though some of his creations were more dark cuisine than gourmet, I always ate them with delight. Lulu, your appetite never ceases to amaze me. He chuckled, rubbing my nose. We had 2 daughters and a son. Our eldest daughter resembled me, vivacious and always smiling. Our youngest daughter took after Hanson, quiet and studious. And our son was a blend of us, both mischievous and quick-witted. We also had 3 dogs and 2 cats, making the house as lively as a small zoo. On weekends, we would take the kids to our seaside villa to relax. The children built sandcastles on the beach while the dogs chased after the waves, and the cats lazily sunbathed. Hanson would always pull me close and we'd lie in the hammock, pretending to nap. I rested against his chest, listening to the sound of the waves, feeling like I was in a dream. Hanson, it's so wonderful having you by my side, I whispered. He kissed my forehead and smiled. Lulu, you're the best.